In this video, I'll be platinuming liesofp, a newer Soulslike that was recently added to the PS Plus catalog, having 43 trophies tied to collectibles, side quests, 3 separate endings, and very specific New Game Plus items. This game was a lot of fun, and the story was just as enjoyable. I'll also be 100%ing the DLC as it further expands the story and experience, while having some of the coolest boss designs and even better weapons. We earn our first trophy by executing our first backshot. Soon after, we encounter our first Stargazer, which acts as this game's bonfire.
It's called a Stargazer.
Now, practicing before the first boss, I wanted to really learn the parrying system, as this game's parry window is pretty tight, and I didn't want to make a fool of myself going any further.
Brother, what's that?
Getting into the first boss, this guy had a lot of really heavily telegraphed attacks. It was a very beginner-friendly boss, but he had a really cool design, and I never really noticed until halfway into the fight that he was actually fighting with his head on the stick. Once we reach the hotel, we are greeted with the game's main mechanic of telling truths or lies. In this case, we have to lie to gain access to this game's main central hub.
I'm so happy to see you.
Do I look like a real boy?
In Search for Our Father in the second chapter, we meet a suspicious NPC that asks some very interesting questions, but we're going to ignore all of that for now. While fighting this NPC boss, I noticed that you could easily trick the AI when going for backshots, and it makes a lot of these NPC fights pretty trivial, especially ones later on in the game.
Do I look like a real boy, Papa?
You will one day, my little wooden boy. One day.
At the end of this chapter, we meet a boss that reminded me of Dark Beast Parl from Bloodborne, and his design was one of my favorites throughout the entire series. The random sporadic attacks that he has while he's spinning really made parrying kinda hard. There is a very specific defensive item that you find in this chapter that made you take a lot less electrical damage that I thought was really neat and rewards exploration. This next fight was extremely annoying as it introduces a mechanic where if you get hit, it takes away a lot of your stamina regen. On top of that, every time that you fight one of these things, there's 0 music, and it's a really lame mini-boss. At the end of the next chapter, we find another boss where we can actually find another defensive part that negates specific fire damage, and one thing that really made this fight annoying was how often and how much he spews fire. Thankfully, the game introduces a different enemy type, as my build was absolutely destroying puppets.
No idea what those things are, pal.
Getting to this boss is getting to the start of this game's skill check, as this boss has a lot of health, 2 phases, and a lot of really weirdly timed attacks, followed with very sporadic attacks. It was also really good at punishing, playing really close and really far. It was also the very first monster boss that we have, which can completely change up the way that you want to centralize your build, because a lot of the items so far have been gearing towards puppet damage, but you can now use different things for monster damage. There's also a mechanic where you can combine your weapons for a trophy.
Oh, but I gotta ask, you really gonna take on the Black Rabbit Brotherhood by yourself?
This next boss fight is a typical Souls gang fight, and like I said before, as long as you can abuse the AI and turn around the characters fast enough, you can backshot them and make a lot of the secondary characters really useless. The main thing for this fight is how hard the main brother actually hits. He's got a buster sword, and he's gonna bust your ass up if he catches you with a long-winded attack. For some reason, trees can make golden coins in this game. This boss was the pure definition of fuck around and find out.
Oh shit!
If you read up on the lore behind this boss, you'll want to slap the fuck out of P instead, because Romeo really deserved better. Now his fight was really cool, and there's a lot of really neat attacks, but I really wanted his weapon. Throughout the game, there are multicolored butterflies that drop different weapon upgrades, and you get a trophy for finding the last one.
Welcome to my reign. This is where evolution becomes real.
This next boss was the bane of my existence, because I just, for the life of me, could not land a parry, and he hits extremely hard. So not only does a steroided abomination freak get stronger, harder, and faster, but he also attacks you with such velocity, like he's trying to run you down to the ground until you give up your fucking lunch money. This dude was a pain in the ass for multiple hours, and was my official skill check, and I had to switch up my weapon. Thankfully that once again there is another defense part that makes you more immune to monster attacks.
Which one of you fellers is the real Dirty Dan?
I am?
This was a wild and interesting boss, as it played into the two enemy types within the game between two of its phases. The first phase was a beast phase, and it had a lot of charging attacks, and it played into a lot of range.
Help me!
Entering his second phase, now that he's turned into a puppet, he's really reminiscent of the Scrapped Watchman. He has a lot of similar attacks to that boss, but he also sticks with his beastly like grabs and long-range attacks. In all, this one was really sporadic and really random, so it's kind of hard to gauge what he's going to do really at what time, and his red flashed attacks were really hard to tell what he was going to do. This is a boss that you really want to stay at close quarters because he can really punish you at long distances. You also want to play into the advantages as you can, because as long as you're using fire or electrical damage, you'll be doing at least double damage. The next one was unfortunately a reskin of the Parade Master, and the only thing that really changed was him gaining AoEs and different vomit attacks, and he can also send in multiple allies to blow up at your feet. He also had a mechanic where if you don't parry his attacks, he would apply a debuff that reduces your weapon's durability.
Accept your fate. Death has come for you.
Unfortunately, this was the shortest chapter, where you could explore the entire thing and get to this boss in around 10 minutes. This was another gank fight, and there really wasn't anything that was different from the last one. And as long as you're circling around the AI, you can pretty much break them. And you only get to the actual main brother once you get down to one sibling. In this state, he has a lot of aggro and a lot of damage output. and one major thing that he gains is like a monster AoE. After this fight, you should have enough materials to upgrade one boss weapon. As you progress through the game, you'll be seeing a bunch of phone booths, and when you pick up and answer each one correctly, when you go to this room, you'll be meted with the person that's been actually calling you, getting a trophy. Laxasia was, in my opinion, the best base game fight in this game, and this was one of the bosses that I was actually worried about because a lot of people were stuck on this and another particular boss. One thing that makes Laxasia really tough is just the sheer amount of damage she does and how frequently she will attack you. Paired with all this, you can't actually attack her from behind when she has her shield, and you can only hit her from the front or the sides. In her second phase, you might think that she gets even harder, but in reality, she gives you a lot of opportunity to parry and even stun lock her. Whenever she's using a lot of combo strings, at the very end she'll actually use an AoE and tire herself out to the point where you can counterattack and do a fatal blow to her. She'll also be flying in the air a lot of times, throwing out lightning bolts that can be parried, but realistically it's a time to heal yourself. Getting near to the end, I backtrack so I can get all the weapons for a trophy.
Behold, this is Ergo. Is it not magnificent?
Simon Manus, the alchemist that helped our father Geppetto essentially made the puppet Frenzy, was kind of a letdown boss in my opinion. He turned out to be just like a big humanoid monster freak, with most of his attacks being super telegraphed. Almost all of his AoEs gave you 5 seconds to predict what's going to happen and where to dodge. And he was extremely easy to stagger with my build, even though it was primarily puppet damaged based. Entering his second phase, it really was kind of a pushover as all of his AoEs were really telegraphed.
It's fine, Von.
I wonder, what'll happen now?
I believed you were a good boy. But you insist on breaking my heart.
Don't care.
Enter the Nameless Puppet, a boss that a lot of people compared Melania to, and I really couldn't see any of the similarities at all. He does do a lot of flashy, fast attacks with really high damage, but there's really nothing you can compare the two with. He was really flashy, and he has 2 phases, and he was a really good boss overall, and I really liked the design of his weapons.
Were you going to destroy Carlos' heart?
Still don't care.
No. You're just a useless puppet.
What did you say? I don't care.
Going back through the game, we get to a point where we have to either save or allow Sophia to remain in her body. We choose the option to save her so we can get her ending. Once we beat Simon and the Nameless Puppet again, we can go back to Geppetto's office so we can claim her letter. I also forgot to get every single boss weapon until now.
I wonder what the
When completing Eugenie's quest, you actually have to do this twice because she gives you different items between the two choices that you give her. And basically we give her an existential crisis with her brother. He was an outlaw helping her since she was an orphan. I also finished every side quest in the game by showing this guy a random boss weapon. You can also get a trophy for listening to every single record, and I recommend you do so because they are all amazing. When beating the game for the third time, you want to obey your father and actually accept giving you your life to him for the alternative ending or the bad ending.
This finally feels like family. Thank you for returning, Carlo.
After receiving the bad ending, you can go back to Geppetto's office for his letter, and with this, I get the platinum trophy. But we're not done yet. We're still going to 100% the entire DLC.
Not sure what's going on, but we better check things out.
We start this DLC off in the past, a time before the puppet frenzy even started.
I was told that murderous puppet had come to call on me. So who is this handsome guest standing before me?
The first actual boss that we fight in this DLC is Marchiona. This was a really interesting double fight that primarily only works through her strings. Her puppet will only be attacking whenever they glow red, and she will only do attacks while she's glowing blue. You actually don't have to destroy her puppet. For this fight to end, you only have to focus on Marchiona. This fight can be a pain in the ass when you can't tell where the puppet is at the point in time because it goes off of your screen very frequently. And she only attacks whenever it glows red.
I had no rival beyond Leia. It should have been the two.
We are then greeted with Leia, the main NPC of this DLC, also known as the legendary stalker, the person that we will be stalking ourselves the entire DLC.
That bastard! I'll kill him!
This next boss really disappointed me because a lot of his attacks were too slow and easily parryable. His next phase was just like Simon's and it was really just flashy.
How in the world are you still alive?
This NPC was clearly going to be a boss fight within this DLC, as a lot of the dialogue kind of suggested as so. He also hinted that he was with the alchemists before this interaction. Now the fight itself was actually a really good NPC fight. You couldn't really break the AI and backstab him, and the fight really ramps up whenever he turns into a monster. Whenever he's in his monster phase, every attack that isn't parried, it will apply the decay buff. And what this buff does is, as long as you're not parrying, your weapon durability goes down.
Who are you? Before all that, how did you find me?
I stalked you. The character design for Leia was really amazing. In this sequence, you actually fight alongside Leia, and almost every 5 to 10 seconds, she's doing a wombo combo that absolutely wrecks everything in 2 seconds.
Hey, yo, what the fuck? Lies. But my wish is for her to live happily. That's the sole reason I remain here and continue to fight.
And who might you be?
Making our way to Arlecchino, summoning Leia is literally a must. Not summoning Leia is a disservice to this fight, and I'll 1v1 any Souls elitist who says otherwise.
This is exactly what I've been waiting for! This pain! The alchemists offered me nothing but boredom. Holy Jesus. But you killed. What is that? What the fuck is that? Offer me something greater. Won't you?
This second phase is no joke, and most of the attacks will keep you on your toes. The first couple of barrages definitely need to be blocked or parried. A lot of his attacks actually do a huge AoE burst attack, and most of his follow-ups have long ranges and very high damage outputs. Getting a fatal blow on Arlecchino with Leia's summon activates one of the coolest in-game cutscenes for fighting I've ever seen. This was just fundamentally a really great last boss. Not only did it have character, but the artistic style for this boss was just really amazing. The entire DLC's style was really captivating, start to finish, and the setting and all of the different areas really weren't boring, and all of them had their own unique twist. This was a really great DLC. Every new weapon that they added in this DLC was unique and had its own flair. In all, this game was truly a masterpiece. Every element around it, the gameplay, the story, the setting, and even the bosses themselves, everything had something to offer, especially someone trying a Soulslike for the first time. This franchise is ever growing, and there's always new Soulslike coming out, and this is definitely one of the most top tier Soulslikes to exist. This game is so good that you'll more than likely be replaying this game just to try out different builds and different ways to play. I really hope that you go out and try to experience this yourself, as I tried to keep out a lot of the actual core gameplay, just so it's not the same for your own experience. And with that, here are the final couple trophies for the DLC.
My wish is that I get to sit with you as the light of the sunrise washes over us.